I mean, hiring painting contractors is a great way to learn what a good painting contractor looks like. So, I probably had a pool of 3 to 5 people in town that I would solicit bids from, and you quickly learn who your favorites are because they do what they say they're going to do. They show up, they perform, they don't complain about other trades. If there's damage, they let you know about it and you work it out and be fair. Um, the quality is expected. So if there's quality problems, they're going to fix that, no problem. It always comes down to the relationship with somebody you want to work with.
Welcome to the Painter Growth Podcast, where we help you scale your painting company in record time. Join us as we explore sales, marketing, hiring, finances, leadership, and more, everything that you need to know to scale and grow your painting business. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. What's up, everybody? Mike Hickman here, founder of paintergrowth.com, and you're listening to another episode, hopefully like your 10th episode of the Painter Growth Podcast. I'm with my friend, Matt Kuyper, not CEO, but co-owner of Harpeth Painting down in Nashville. Stoked to have you, man. It's been 6 months since we hung out back in Florida.
Let's do it again soon, like next January.
Are you going to, you'll be at the expo?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Of course. That was wicked. Good time. Are you doing any of the other PCA events before then, like the residential or commercial summits or anything like that?
I will for sure be at commercial, TBD on residential or whatever it's called now.
Yeah, it's Minneapolis.
For sure at the commercial. Yeah.
It's convenient.
Of course, it's in Minneapolis. Of course.
Yeah. I mean, having both Nick and Jason there is pretty special. I actually hosted our last mastermind in Minneapolis as well for that reason. I mean, number one, it was like end of April in Minneapolis, pretty nice. And also both those boys were there. So
yeah, I think there's more PCA painting contractors in Minneapolis than any other city in the nation.
Yeah. I mean,
good turnout there.
Yeah. When you have the head recruiter of the PCA, the last two of them in that city.
Yeah.
Kind of makes sense.
Yep.
So, I mean, we could talk about all sorts of things today. We could talk about golf. We could talk about CrossFit. We could talk about your battle over the last couple of years. Why don't we start off easy with some commercial painting talk? So first,
that's the easy one, right?
That's the easy one. First things first. Why are you qualified to talk about commercial painting?
I'm not. I just have a lot of experience doing it wrong, I guess. We've been. Well, I personally have been in the commercial construction industry for almost 20 years. I worked for a general contractor as a project manager, so I got to hire painters.
Yeah,
that's a really great way to learn about it.
Was that at Icon? I think it's called.
Yeah, I worked at Icon, and then a smaller developer general contractor before that. And then I also worked for a larger commercial painting company here in Nashville for 3 or 4 years. Learned some things of what not to do and what to do there.
Yeah.
And then finally found it was time for me to do my own thing about 7 years ago.
Yeah. That's the way to do it. But you kind of sidelighted with Harpeth as you're going and still working at the other construction companies.
Yep. Yeah.
So go ahead.
That was a great way to, it's actually funny because you can't just jump into doing commercial work right off the bat. So I actually had to learn residential work kind of backwards of what most people would do. So I was more afraid of going in to paint somebody's house than I was painting an office building. But that was the kind of small jobs that you have to start out with. So it's kind of funny how that is a reverse for most people.
What was the biggest culture shock for you going from large scale commercial to painting Mary's Kitchen?
Oh, it's definitely the client communication aspect of it. Like you look at it now, how these professional companies are, you have an automated message, we're on our way. You have a, proposal on the spot maybe, or a slick email you send. Like it's more of a polished sales process and communication than what commercial is, where it's like you have a bid date and you just turn in your number and then, you're scheduled to do the job and you show up, and it's a different process for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, the communication is huge. I did a lot of commercial repaints, a little bit of commercial new, and like as long as you can stay organized with like the GC, they're not going to be breathing down your neck, at least for the most part. The good ones won't be.
Yeah, exactly.
But like Mary might be sitting on her couch with a flashlight. Like,
yeah. There's so much more emotion involved in residential painting.
yeah. Yeah. So you say that you typically, you know, and as you did too when you guys were starting Harpeth, you started with residential and then went into commercial. And we can talk about the difference between commercial new builds and commercial repaints because they're vastly different. What are the risk factors that you see as for a new painter getting into, you know, starting their business? Why don't they just jump into commercial? I mean, I know why I think that I believe that, but what are the reasons that you feel someone shouldn't go directly into commercial while they're small?
There's a couple things that the biggest one is probably lack of knowledge in the space, and they get intimidated, and like just not knowing is enough reason to not get into it because they don't know what the outcome is going to be. They don't know what the process is like. So I'd say that's probably roadblock number one. And then roadblock number two is probably the financial part of it. It's typically a larger job. It's typically a longer payment cycle. So you have to know how to manage your cash flow and plan for that. Whereas if you're painting, like you said, Mary's house or whatever it was, you hopefully walk out with a check.
Yeah, you get paid that day or that week,
yep.
not like 45 or 60 days later.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely going to say the cash flow first, but the knowledge as well is like huge. Even if you painted 1,000 houses, going in and painting a hospital is a little bit different.
What I find with a lot of the questions I get, sorry, my nose is super itchy. A lot of the questions I get, it's like they just see this big thing, and it's like, where do I start with pricing? Where do I start with this is going to take 100 guys, you know, that they just rather than breaking it down into smaller sections and looking at it as really just a bigger residential project, they can't see it as well because it's so big.
Yeah.
Even if it's not that big, it seems big.
So I was painting this the first large job that I ever had. It was this airport hangar, and it was like it was a repaint, but it was like, gosh, $35,000. And even on large residentials, they can get that big too. But I at the time I had no idea how to manage job sites. I didn't know how to keep my guys productive, give them daily and weekly goals, and like 2-3 weeks into the project, we were lost on the job. We we didn't know what windows there was like 200 windows in a row, like one of those older hangars, you know. And we didn't know which windows were done, which windows were one coated, which windows still needed prep, how much siding was done, like. And the guys just got lost and they got demotivated, and because of that they're working even slower, and they didn't they weren't considering their ladder placements. And we just scraped by on that project, but you know, learn from that job site management.
Yeah, that's a really good point, that especially as you grow and do more of it, learning how to plan those jobs out, because it's not like in a house you're like, okay, I know it's going to be 6 hours for this room or 20 hours, but you can start breaking it down into smaller pieces. And that's essentially what you have to do. You know, say it's your airport hangar, say, hey, the east wall, we have, you know, 200 man hours to do this. We've got 4 guys here. Like, how are we going to, is that, you know, a week? Are we going to get this done? And, you know, just start breaking it down into its smaller parts and have a good, you know, Nick calls it his jump sheet. Other people call it a project plan or a work order.
Yeah, we call it a go sheet.
Yep. Something like that, that breaks it down so people know where they're at. We started doing this especially on our larger commercial jobs, new construction, where we have to provide a schedule of values that we bill against for the general contractor. So we've actually taken that as our field directive, our work order, where it's, hey, the 12th floor, say it's a hospital, 12th floor, you know, we've got 20 rooms in there. We need to get, you know, priming on that floor is 150 hours, finish coat is 200 hours, door frames are 100. And you know, it's all broken out in a spreadsheet so we know what we're tracking, where we're at. And then it also helps us because that's what we bill against too, so we know progress report for billing percentages as well. It's kind of a kill 2 birds with 1 stone approach.
Yeah, I mean, project planning is one thing, but like you said before, like you don't know what to expect. I think a lot of people go into a commercial and think, oh yeah, at the end of the commercial job, I'm just going to get paid. But like, if you don't know how to submit a purchase order, or you know, a remit payment, or what net 30 means or net 60, and and then the ability to track your finances and project cash flows so that you don't go under. Like if you don't know how to do any of those things, you should probably be staying away from commercial work.
Yeah. And none of it's exceptionally hard. It's just different and unique for what most people are exposed to, unless they came from that background.
Yeah, but you can learn, right? You can get in if you have a solid foundation. Your business is cash flow positive, and you're fairly out of the day to day.
Yep.
You can take on a 50K job and learn the hard way.
Yeah. If you have good accounting, if you're using QuickBooks and your job costing, you can probably do anything. You're in the top 10% of painting contractors right there just by doing that.
Yeah, 100%. So what are some of the skills that you learned from Icon Painting that you were able to immediately deploy at Harpeth?
So Icon was a general contractor. I was a project manager there. So I would say, I mean, hiring painting contractors is a great way to learn what a good painting contractor looks like. So, I probably had a pool of 3 to 5 people in town that I would solicit bids from, and you quickly learn who your favorites are because they do what they say they're going to do. They show up, they perform, they don't complain about other trades. If there's damage, they let you know about it and you work it out and be fair. The quality is expected. So if there's quality problems, they're going to fix that, no problem. It always comes down to the relationship with somebody you want to work with.
So that actually brings up a very curious question for me, because a lot, like one of the marketing initiatives that we recommend at Painter Growth, and I've on like many podcasts and stuff, is if you want to get into commercial, you got to initiate those relationships with property managers and realtors, builders, GCs. How would you what would work for you? Like put your GC hat on, your project manager hat on. What would work for you to trust and want to use a new painter who cold called you?
I've actually done I've done that a few times. It's scary. It's a risk. And I'd say it happens over time. If somebody calls me or sends me an email and say, "Hey, I'd love to stop by your office or take you out to lunch," and they present well, it seems like they've done some stuff that's on par with what we're doing, then they're going to have to be in line with their bid over the next few months, and I'll probably try them out on a smaller project if their pricing is in line. And again, you're really, it feels like a big risk the first time you hire somebody, and it typically takes a long time to get through that door, get through that gate, because it's not just, hey, we had lunch and your price was good. It's a long process to build a level of trust. It's probably multiple lunches. It's probably multiple office visits. And then once you do get that job, you really need to be on your toes the first time.
What are some green flags that you would see from a painting contractor soliciting you?
I always look at who they're working for right now. So if they're working for a company that's a lot like the company I was at, I know that they can perform. So it's basically a referral without being a referral. It's like, oh, I know they're working for so and so down the road that is a great contractor. So if they're hiring them, they must be legit.
Yeah. How about, like, a lot of guys are trying to get into that, right? So if someone doesn't necessarily have that referral, are there anything that they can do or say to help build that credibility? Or maybe what would be a red flag that would make you take pause or just disregard that applicant completely?
Yeah. It's funny, the way I'm going to say this is the red flag is not having done any of that sort of work before.
Okay.
And you're right. That is the challenge. And I realize it's immensely harder for most people to break into that market than it was for me, because I came from that background and had relationships that were built over the last 20 years. So people knew me and my character before I had this painting company. So there was a certain level of trust there. But I do think it is a challenge if you say, hey, I'm Joe Blow, house painter, and I want to bid your commercial office building. It just takes a lot of reps to finally just get somebody that's going to give you a shot. And once you get it, you gotta knock it out of the park, and then you've got that one job.
Yeah. And then you can leverage that.
Yeah. And I say that too is like I almost call it like a marketing cost, where those first few jobs you may do them less than what you would normally charge. and you know you're not going to make a bunch of money on them, but it's building your portfolio. It's like paying for Facebook ads. You don't get an immediate ROI on that, but then once you have a couple jobs under your belt, you built that trust, you can start charging your normal rate again and get that money back.
Yeah. So basically,
it's a dangerous game to play, but it's a game that needs to be played carefully.
Especially if that's your ambition to get more into commercial.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basically what I'm hearing is that if you're a house painter and you're looking to get into commercial new, like number one, have your stuff together, know your numbers, and be persistent. It's not just going to take one intro. It's going to take a lot. Stop by the office, in-person meetings, go for coffee, be professional, have your literature together. And if all of that goes well, you might get a break. You might get a test project.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think the thing that a lot of people lack is
intimidating for sure.
A lot of people lack persistence, though. They think if I just make a bunch of cold calls, I'm going to get projects.
Yeah.
But it's that relationship game.
Alex Hormozy. You familiar with him?
Yeah, I'm going to his mastermind in 2 weeks.
Oh, dude, you're lucky. I love the analogy that he uses about the potting class, where the one cohort was told you have all semester to make one pot, one jar, whatever it is, and make it as best as you can. Then the other cohort had to make 100 pots. And the cohort that made 100 pots also ended up making the best pot. So it's all about those reps. You got to do it a lot, and you're going to get good at it. You're going to get good at those cold calls. You're going to get good at those office visits. You can't just do one and you're prepped for it. You got your hand out. You went in there and killed it, and then you just wait.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I think also like a mindset shift for most business owners who do want to scale their businesses up. It's like you're not in the painting business anymore, right? Like you're not in the painting business. You're in the training the painters, training people to become painters. Like if you say I can't find good painters, it's because you're not training people to become good painters. There are people out there who want to work. If you want to develop that, you're not in the painting business. You're in the relationship business. Develop relationships with as many GCs as you can over the next 12 months. Your business will be very different next year.
Yep. Yeah, we use that phrase a lot of times with multiple different things in our business. We're not a painting company. We're a scheduling company. Sometimes it feels like that's where we make our money, is by being really good schedulers. Or we're a recruiting company, or a subcontractor development company, or all these different things where the painting part of it is so low down the totem pole of what's important at that time that you're not a painting company essentially.
Yep. So what's your guys' process right now for building relationships? Let's go back to commercial repaint, since we don't have to worry about bidding on blueprints. We can just bid it by walking around the building. What's your process right now, or what was it at the beginning to initiate some of these relationships with property managers and realtors?
So in the beginning, your time is very cheap. So that's where you do the boots on the ground. Go through LinkedIn. I'm going to find this person's email. I'm going to email them, and then I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to stop by next Friday. Hopefully you'll be there. If not, you're just going to leave something. So it's literally the grassroots, finding property managers, finding building owners, reaching out to them manually through websites, LinkedIn, however you can find the information. You're mining the internet and then contacting and visiting those people. And that's a great way to get momentum early. It's super time consuming, but it's really effective. And then once you get to that next level where I have a sales team and we have marketing, it's doing a little bit of everything. You probably know this better than anybody, but we do email marketing stuff. Google is great for us. Facebook, not so much on the commercial repaint side. And then everybody in our company, whether you're a project manager, admin, sales, doesn't matter, is required to be part of a networking group. That could be a BNI or AGC, or our couple of our female employees are members in NAWIC, which is a female business construction thing. And so that again is a great way to just meeting people. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool policy to have your managers do that stuff.
Yeah.
They can be super beneficial. Yeah, the main way that we kind of teach it is basically like create a spreadsheet, do like your data mining. So go on Google Maps, find all the companies, go on their websites, find the key players, put them all in a spreadsheet, and then just track your outreach effort. Did you call them? Did you text them? Did you visit them? Did you drop off coffee? And just like strategically work on building a whole bunch of relationships at once.
Yeah. We're doing a fun trial this summer. Our team built these really cool, I don't think I have one at home here. We call it what are they calling it? That's how much I'm involved right now. Like a basket of sunshine or something like that. It's a basket that's got safety yellow t-shirts in it, safety yellow koozies, tequila, like margarita mixer, like everything's yellow. And we're doing it in a time when most people aren't going to visit people's office because it's the busy time of the year. It's not a holiday. It's not when
you're not going on Christmas when they're getting 10 other things.
Yeah. So we're delivering these baskets to our big clients or potential clients and just say, hey, here's some fun summer stuff. Spend 10 minutes talking at the office, and that stuff is super effective. It's not like you walk in and you walk out with a job, but it certainly is in the long run a great way to maintain and build those relationships.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time, or just the other day I was talking about like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And a lot of people are operating in like that I need food and shelter space. And if you're operating in that I need food and shelter space and you go and talk to a property manager or something, like they're going to sense that. They're like, this guy is way too needy, so we're not going to go with you. But if you get past that in your business and you're able to think out weeks, months ahead, now you can operate in that like higher level mindset and just really truly be there to serve and not demand anything. Yeah, man. So you guys do a lot of commercial work. How do you balance your commercial side of your business with your residential side of your business?
I don't know if we have that 100% figured out. It's a very unique business model that we found ourselves in. It works really well for us. It's not easy, but we do regular residential repaint. We do super high-end custom homes. We do commercial new construction and commercial repaint and flooring, like epoxy flooring and stuff like that. So
you guys do floor coatings too?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're essentially in 5 different divisions or verticals, and we thought about running them as kind of separate divisions. We've played around with that, but essentially there's so much overlap that's valuable. So say like a commercial job would have like a cool like decorative plaster something in the lobby, and most commercial painting contractors would be like, oh, what, we can't do that, I don't know about this, and we can loop in our design team that's doing these faux finishes or a plaster finish and say, hey, we've got this on this commercial job, like, do I need to charge for this? Let's knock it out. So there's a lot of synergies, and then likewise on taking the commercial side to residential. Holy cow, got kids here.
Oh, that's all good.
We know how to scale up on a job, because if it's a residential that needs 10 people on it to knock it out on a weekend, we can have a bunch of our commercial guys go over there and load up a job for a weekend. So there's a lot of synergy that actually happens.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Do you have dedicated crews for each like subtask, or like do you kind of train all your guys and everything?
So for the most part, they're dedicated, but we've got a couple of rock stars that can do both. And I wish everybody was like that, but it's super hard to have guys that can do commercial and residential.
Yeah. And
definitely very different. Yeah.
Can your painters do floor coatings, or you just got like a floor coating crew?
We started out with our painters doing it. We trained them, but now we're kind of getting more into dedicated crews for that once the volumes come up.
Yeah. That makes sense. There's a lot of work out there for that.
Yeah. And again, it's a synergistic thing that we can add on where they don't have to hire another company to do, especially the smaller stuff. Like, we're not getting into super huge commercial floors yet, but if it's hey, the break room has 1,500 square foot of polished concrete in it, we can do that. And it's super synergistic rather than having to hire another contractor to do a small portion of the work.
Do you guys grind or just like acid wash?
Grind it. Yeah.
I did my own epoxy garage in my last house.
Yeah.
Never again.
It can go south really quick, can't it?
Dude, so much work. Yeah, we like rented the grinder, and then we got the little one for the edges, and then had to get the big commercial vacuum, and Oh man. And then we did it a little bit too late in the season. I know you guys don't know what this is like, but it was getting cold. And so we're like racing against the clock to try to get it in. I ended up on one of the batches, I ended up forgetting one of the cans of
Oh no.
whatever it's called, the
Yeah.
setting thing. So it was just like tacky the next day. I was just like, I should have just paid to have someone do this.
Yeah, we just had our whole trailer of equipment stolen 2 weeks ago.
Oh no way.
Day before 4th of July. Yeah, it was in one of the wealthiest zip codes in the entire country. There's cameras on every corner, and we had it locked up on the axle and the tongue, and they still got away with it somehow, and
Wow.
gone. All our grinders, all our stuff.
That's why we have insurance, though, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny, we had just bought GPS trackers to put on all our trailers, and it was sitting in the office, not on the trailer yet.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Wow.
That hurt.
Yeah, that hurts a lot. But yeah, at least you have insurance for a reason, right?
Yeah.
You get to use your insurance. So
yeah.
Yeah, if anyone's listening to this, I don't have insurance, then get that.
Or if anyone is listening and sees a trailer that's for sale with a bunch of grinders in it.
Yeah, in the Nashville area.
No, it's probably not in Nashville anymore. I'm sure that thing's long gone.
Yeah, they must have been scoping it for a while then, if they went and they got through 2 locks.
Yeah. Professionals, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was talking to do you know, have you ever met Brandon Vaughn?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, his Wise Coatings, they're doing a ton of floor coatings now. It's a huge business. They're doing the number he dropped yesterday or a couple days ago was 1.5 a month.
Wow.
Across all of his franchises.
That's great.
Yeah. So but I would recommend, as a small contractor listening to this, if you're below $1 million a year, stay in your lane, just focus on one thing.
Yeah. I would definitely say too, like, again, our business model is super unique. We did it because we didn't know any different, and I think it has been successful for us. But I would much rather tell people to focus on one thing, especially until you get to that like $3 to $5 million mark. You can be a specialist in residential repaint or whatever you want to be, and at a certain point, growth will come with diversity. But yeah, there's no reason to go broad with your scope of work right off the bat.
No, you want to be a specialist. I like to say an inch wide and a mile deep.
Yeah.
You also have 8 years of professional project management experience, which, like, even seeing how big companies use their systems and being able to apply those, like, that's such a head start.
Yeah.
Not saying that as like an unfair head start. That's just the direction that your career went, and it's like very beneficial.
Yeah, I think it accelerated the trajectory of Harpeth Painting, where we've only been in business for 7 years, really full time for 6. If I wouldn't have had that experience, it would have been 20 years before we got to the point of where we're at. I think.
Absolutely, man. Unless you get those systems from like a coach or like an industry partner or something like that. What do you think is like the number one most misunderstood or like typically incorrectly done thing in commercial painting that you see or you hear about?
Most misunderstood. I think it has very little to do with the painting. I think it has a lot to do with the bidding, the billing, the back end stuff. Because again, the painting is not that much of a different thing. Spraying dry fall or whatever, not a hugely different thing than spraying a drywall ceiling. Just a little more, angles on your sprayer. But people knowing how to price the work, knowing how to present a proposal, and then knowing what insurance coverage is required and how to bill for a project. And the only way to do that is to do it and learn it. And I found even with us, when we work with new contractors, they all have a little bit different system. And so all you got to do is just ask, like, hey, this is our first time on a project with you guys. Can you walk us through what makes this easy for you on billing or submittals? They're like, are you using a software? Are we just sending paper? Like, just being proactive so that in the end, it's not like, oh no, you need to send this in with your bill, or you need to do this. And then they wait 60 days, like, oh no, you forgot this. And it just can get away from you if you're not proactive on asking what they need.
Do you have like a new contractor, new subcontractor like onboarding process that you take every sub through before they get to work with you?
For our subcontractors?
Yeah. Like to go through those types of things, or is it just kind of informal?
Aren't you talking about for the GC, like what we do with them, or what we do with our actual like painting subcontractors?
I was just talking about now with your painting subcontractors.
Um, we do we have a like a pretty big onboarding packet that we put them through. And then it's kind of like what it would be if I was a general contractor hiring a painter. Like you give them that small job first
Mm-hmm.
and try them out, and then again, it's they're coached through like here's how you submit your invoices, here's how you when you submit, where you submit, because we have this whole intranet portal thing that they go into, and but it's a pretty like it doesn't happen in a week. It probably happens over a month.
Did you set that up yourself, like an internet portal for your subs?
Yep.
Or is
Yep.
it like a third-party software?
No, it's all through a Google website.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So it's a whole intranet that has like all our company resources on it. All our color submission information goes there through our website, so it's data-based. And then our subcontractor portal is on there. It keeps kind of growing and morphing too as we need to add other stuff. But it's everything we have in our company is in Google Drive, which is great if it's formatted correctly, which we spend a lot of time doing. But sometimes just having like a visual website way, it's like, what's our, oh, I need to access our like our SOP for cabinets. Rather than going through a Google file, you can just go on the internet file and go to SOPs, click on cabinets, and it's right there on your phone.
Gotcha. That is awesome.
Yeah. So it's
Benefits
basically
of your
just
large
it's
company.
everything that is in our Google Drive is just linked in a more visual website format.
Yeah. I love it. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Makes it very professional and makes your contractors take you seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's a big challenge for a lot of guys starting out, is the contractors don't take you seriously as a business owner because you don't take yourself seriously. So
Mm-hmm.
if you don't take yourself seriously, they're not going to show up.
Yep. Yep.
I got a juicy way to turn this to take this podcast.
Let's go.
What is it like working for your wife?
Man, that is a great question. It's
I
something.
worded that intentionally.
Yes. So the long story of it is I was very good or am very good at starting a business, dealing with unknowns, working through grit of like, okay, I'm going to set up QuickBooks. I'm going to go get a license. I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to paint cabinets at night. Like I was really good at that. And once we kind of got to the, let's say like that $3.5 to $5 million mark, where you really, it's more about leadership and managing people. Like I totally got out of my league there. Like I'm not good at it. I don't like it. And Maggie is really good at that. And she was kind of always along for the ride from the beginning. So she was there in the day to day from the beginning.
So you were the incubator. You
Yep.
started it. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Which is also unique because now like I'm a visionary as well. So it's weird that I had the skill and ability to do the startup thing, but then really now be more the visionary, where she's much more an operative CEO. I
Integrator.
wouldn't call her a full-on integrator. She is more, but not as full-on as what some people are, but much better at leading and managing people, much better at dealing with enterprise level decisions of,
She's your
you know,
Layla.
these. Yeah. So got super lucky that she just happened to be my wife, and I didn't have to hire somebody to do this from outside the family.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely in a weird place right now. I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle of it. Like I'm essentially jobless at this point. Like I've replaced every role for me in the company other than visionary. Um, but yeah,
Now
it's
you know how
very
Jason
weird.
Paris feels. You could start
Yeah,
ultra marathons.
it's actually funny you say that because I called Jason last week. It's like, dude, what what is this like? Like you've been in it a little bit longer than me, but what am I supposed to be doing? What's the value that I can still bring? Uh, yeah, and I don't have an answer yet. I feel like I'm kind of right in the middle of it, and a lot of it started with going through leukemia last year and essentially not working for 6 months. So, you can be replaced pretty easily if you just don't show up. Beginning of this year, I tried to dive right back in and like hit it hard as like in task and bidding and all this stuff. And it's like I just realized I was taking opportunities away from my team members because I would just get the low hanging fruit of all my relationships and just snipe jobs from them where they're not getting commission.
This is
It's
actually
like
really interesting. Sorry to cut you off, but
yeah,
when I was talking to, there's a lot of parallels between Brandon Vaughn's story, because he took over his business from his dad, and yesterday we were talking about the metaphorical. If you got hit by a bus, what would happen to your business? And in his father's case, his father got heart disease, and he came in and helped him build systems. He ended up scaling the business and whatnot, but that was his metaphorical bus, right? And that allowed him to get out of the business.
yeah,
And this was your metaphorical bus
yep,
that essentially forced you to get out of your business
yeah,
and get yourself replaced.
yep, yep,
So, I mean, yeah, that there's a lot of philosophical questions we get into about
yeah,
meaning
yeah.
and stuff, but like, what were some of the more challenging things for your team to cover for you to hire out?
Uh, the long term bigger relationships that I've worked on for 20 years don't just go away and hand it off. Like there's a lot of that I'm still involved with. Um, but like for example, especially on the new construction side on contractor relationships, like it's so easy for me to just get a bid invite from one of my buddies at one of the contractors here, and it's like I'll put a number on it and they'll be like, "Yep, we're good to go." Like got the job, just because I've done so many reps with those guys. And now I have to be like, okay, no, I'm going to let Reese handle this one, and then, I'm going to follow up with the relationship, in a couple weeks and just see how everything's going. But like slowly gearing that stuff up to those guys, because if I just come in and take all those opportunities away from them, they're never going to learn and never going to build those relationships.
Or make the commission
Or
that they
yeah,
need
yeah,
to.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
That's important too.
yep, yep.
Now how about, like, Maggie's great, obviously, but is there any like dynamics that are like tough being in the business with your significant other? Because
Yeah,
my wife has her own job, and like I feel like there would be a big learning curve for me. But like, how do you
we
separate church and state there?
yeah. We're For some reason we're trying to figure this out. We just do it really well together somehow, and I think we need to write a book about it at some point. So we're trying to be more intentional of like how it works and why it works. But I think we just stay in our own lanes so well, but also then collaborate when it's valuable. Um, like I don't have to micromanage her. She doesn't have to micromanage me. We both have the best interests of the business at heart. Um,
Do you guys have scorecards for each other?
no,
No business scorecards?
no.
Okay.
Um, I think they just come unintentionally because how much we are like we're already integrated so much because we're talking about it every day, all the time.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think the downside comes when like when we have a bad day in business, like we both had a bad day. It's not like I had a bad day at Harpeth Painting and she was a teacher and had a great day, so she can kind of lift me up when she comes home. It's like, no, we're both going to be down or we're both going to be up at the same time. There's never like one person that can kind of be the opposite. I'd say that can be a challenge.
Yeah. Um,
Uh,
I was listening to I think Layla Hormozy the other day, and she was like on one of her videos, uh, how do you guys, when you get home, how do you like not just talk about business all the time? And she's like, well, all we do is talk about business because that's what we love talking about.
yeah, yeah. We've had different people coach us on different ways to approach that, and again, it's like it's what we love to do. It's what our family is built around. It's so we call it. We've got a screen porch on the back of our house. We love to sit out there, and the kids will play in the yard, and we might start talking about business, and like that's fine for us as long as it's not like at the dinner table, where it's becoming the family thing. We try to be intentional about that.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it happens after hours all the time. And I think that's part of our superpower as well, is that we've got that many more hours to strategize and talk about things than what most people do.
Have you guys ever had any like major disagreements about like the direction of the business or something significant in the business that y'all had to kind of flesh out?
Um,
Because I know it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
no, very few disagreements on major like trajectory strategy type things. Maggie's a little more conservative on the financial side than what I am. So I think that may be where some disagreements have happened, but it's not like, hey, we need, we're going to grow to X amount next year. Does that sound good to you or not? It's like, yeah, that's about right. Major things like that we're pretty aligned with it. And then also some of the leadership things with subcontractors and team members. I'm much more like white and black, cut and dry. Like they did this, they're gone. And she's like, no, let's understand why. Let's give them a little more like needs more information, benefit of the doubt. What did we do wrong to put them in this position? Where I'm more like that's dumb. They screwed up. Like let's have a conversation right away.
Yeah. Well,
Which is good. We kind of temper each other, and I don't think one of us is more right than the other. I think when we meet in the middle, it's probably right.
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, that's a very fortunate dynamic that you guys got.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty ideal.
Like I said, we're starting to be more intentional of actually remembering why and how this works, because I do think it is unique. And the downside of it too, though, is that because we're in the same household, yes, I've kind of transitioned more out of an operational role of the business, but she's still in it. So like our vacation schedule isn't my vacation schedule. Now it's hers. Like I could be gone anytime, but like now we need to, okay, Maggie has to prepare, take a vacation. So we've got kind of a 5-year plan we're starting to work on that phases her out of being the super operational CEO. She may still be CEO, but relinquishing some of the things that she shouldn't be doing in the long term, like still managing the schedule.
Operations manager,
Yeah.
general manager.
Yeah. And we have a director of operations that we hired about a year ago, and he keeps taking on more and more and more. And then, maybe some of the business development stuff as well. But yeah, that's a 5-year plan that we're just really starting to get into.
Yeah, having that general manager where she can do 2 hours a week with him or her, and
yeah,
leverage her time a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like the manager time versus the maker time.
Yeah,
she's like manager time, your maker time.
Mm-hmm. And she's probably 50-50 in that right now. But it is the stuff that she wants to do that's the hardest stuff to get rid of.
Yeah, I mean, as entrepreneurs, that's like, you don't want to get out of it too fast because it's so freaking fun.
Yeah. And we're just now getting to that tipping point of having like a long-term sustainable business too. So it's like you don't want to let go too quick where the castle can fall down. It's got a strong foundation now. Now we're building it out and putting all the curtains in it and furnishings. That's the fun phase in business, I think.
You ever talk to John McFarland out of Detroit?
So I talked to him for a handful of minutes at PCA, but he's actually going to be at the Ask a Painter retreat in Minnesota in a couple weeks. And I'm really looking forward to spending some time with him.
Yeah, he's I think you guys will get along.
Yeah,
he's great. We stayed up at PCA. We stayed up half the night at Teppanyaki, and then we had a couple of podcasts together. But you guys are in a similar spot where he's just like, it's kind of like Jason walking around the office. Hey, another day in paradise.
Yeah.
So where does that bring you now, with your business and your time? Like, where do you feel like you want to spend your next, all this free time that you have? What do you want to do? Like, what would make Matt feel fulfilled?
I think it's a handful of things. One, keeping a pulse on everything and maintaining that 30,000 foot view of the company, Nashville economy, you know, keep networking for what new employees are going to look like. Because at this point, I hope we don't have any arbitrage, but most of our employees have, been with us for a long time, and there becomes a risk of people moving on to bigger and better things if they're not getting what they need here. So really focusing on supporting the team, what they need for growth, and then also looking for new team members that can either help us grow or replace people if that unfortunately happens. And then I still like doing the high level networking stuff, taking people on trips. That's a huge thing in our industry, especially on the new construction side of taking people fishing on a deal in Florida or duck hunting in Arkansas or whatever it may be. I love doing that stuff. And then kind of a fun project. We just bought 15 acres down the road from our house and got an old house on it. We're going to renovate and then build a house up on the back side of the property. So I'm going to be spending a lot of time building our dream house in the next 2 years.
That's real life stuff, man.
Yeah. So it's kind of good that I've got some time to focus on that and not be too drowned out with day-to-day stuff and do something cool for our family.
That's very cool. We actually just bought a house. We took possession of it a week ago, and that's what we've been doing every night and on the weekends is like we've got a new flooring we're putting in, and we've got the painters there, and my wife did some murals in the kids' room. We're putting together IKEA furniture.
Exactly. Yeah, and if you can stay married after that.
Yeah. Well, I think the lesson is
IKEA
don't build
furniture,
IKEA
especially
furniture with someone. You got to do it by yourself. They can work on a different piece altogether.
Yeah, that's a disaster, a recipe for disaster trying to build IKEA furniture together.
Yeah. Anyway, man, your story is inspiring, and I love what you guys have built, and I wish you the best and stoked to hang with you. Hopefully we see you sometime again before Denver.
I know that's going to be give a shout out. Everybody come to Denver, please.
Yeah, we got the PCA Expo coming up in Denver in the Broadmoor.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Historic building. I don't think tickets are on sale yet, but I'm going to be there. You're going to be there. A lot of cool people are going to be there.
Yep. That's good chatting. It's a fun conversation.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, I love it. And that's my favorite thing about the podcast is just like getting when else can I make like CEOs of companies set aside an hour of their time just to chat with me?
Yeah.
Anytime. Just record it and they will. So
yeah.
Appreciate you, Matt. And maybe we'll get a workout when we get together.
Love it.
Thanks for listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. If you want to grow your painting business, go to www.paintergrowth.com or click on the top link in the description. Talk soon.